Hello and welcome back to Secure Insights, the podcast where we explore the evolving world of cybersecurity talent and innovation. We help cyber vendors and tech firms grow across the US and beyond, and along the way, we bring you insights from some of the industry's top leaders. Today, we're thrilled to have Matt Vaillancourt joining us. Matt is a Senior Director and Global Head of Managed Services at SonicWall and brings over 20 years of senior leadership experience across both startups and large enterprises. In this episode, Matt shares his unique perspective on how to build and maintain motivation within fast-growing teams, the key differences between startup and corporate environments. Of course, we had to touch on AI within cybersecurity as well. And finally, some golden advice from Matt for the next generation looking to break into the industry. Got a fantastic conversation ahead, so let's get stuck in. Good morning, Matt. Welcome to our podcast.
Thank you very much for inviting me to come on. Super happy to share some of my experiences over the past 25 plus years in the world of sales. Little bit more, I guess, in depth as far as my journey is concerned. I guess how far back do we want to go? When I was 13, I was a paper delivery boy. I guess that kind of counts, right? I have to sell the paper to people and get them to pay me.
Done the same. That's how I started. Yeah, indeed. Good grounding.
Yeah. But no, when I really got into my, I guess what we'll say professional career as far as sales is concerned, I started off in retail sales. Worked in electronic sales, consumer electronic sales. For many years, was a sales manager slash store manager slash operations manager. I think it's over 6, 7, 8 different years. Did a 1-year stint at what I call Dunder Mifflin. So I actually worked inside a call center where we sold paper, pre-printed forms, things along those lines. Like quite literally, I tell people like watch The Office, and that's what I did, right? That's what our world was.
Sure.
Got back into technology sales after that, and really got into the distribution channel, and then into the vendor space proper, and that's where I've been over. I'd say the last coming up on 20 years now in the IT channel is where I've been, and over 25 years in sales now, and 21 of them have been in sales leadership, in leading teams throughout different organizations.
Yeah, cool, nice. So you're at SonicWall now, aren't you? Who are obviously well known for network security, but other loads of other products as well. And I think recently you're now Senior Director of Global Managed Security Services.
Yep. Yes,
Cool.
that is true.
Nice one. So with all of that experience, and if we sort of, it segues nicely into the topic of sales leadership, which we love to sort of have different guests on and talking about this sort of subject. You've led teams throughout obviously significant challenges and sales growth, and I think you increase sales with sort of digit growth per quarter at SonicWall. What strategies and what did you implement to achieve that, and how did you keep a team, which I guess is one of the sort of biggest talking points, keeping a team motivated during rapid growth?
Yeah, and that's a huge challenge, I think, for a lot of people, when they everyone wants to grow rapidly, right? And a lot of people aren't prepared for when they eventually do hit on something that is successful for them. How do I manage all of this now? It gets very overwhelming very quickly. Couple of things that I would call out here. First off, small measures of success. You got to have a broad goal, and most companies do, right? We all have, as salespeople, we all have quotas. Got to hit X amount of sales if you want to get your paycheck, right? And that's great, but making sure you're setting up measures of how are you going to get there step by step. Okay, well, I'm going to go get X number of new customers, or I'm going to grow my install base by X amount, and here's how I'm going to do that. And setting up those mile markers, as I call them, right, are really great, because it helps you get that hit of dopamine, right? Like, oh,
Yep.
I achieved that, and it's one more tick on my way to my ultimate goal, which is this. I want to hit this overall revenue target, right? So those goals can look like any number of different things. It could be as simple as number of customer engagements you want to have within a day. So figuring out what's going to work best to motivate your team is probably the harder part there. And I think that segues into my second answer here, and that's empowering your team and enabling them to be adaptive as they sell, right? Especially if you're in a period of rapid growth. You can't have a canned, here's your script, here's your products, here, pick up the phone and dial people and just be robotic and go over and over, right? You have to empower and enable that team to be adaptive to the feedback that they're getting from the customers as they're engaging, right? And you have to be there for them to help them overcome some of those objections and help them work through these things. And what I think a lot of people find is when you empower a team to be adaptive in that manner, and I'm saying the team, right? So the individual sellers, you get them together, they start working together, they start communicating with one another. Oh, I had that problem. Here's what I said to the customer to overcome it. Or, oh yeah, I ran into that the other day and I did some research on it. And here's what I found out. Let's game plan. How should we attack this? Right. So giving your team the space to be able to do those things, but also letting them know that you're there if they fail. And that failure is natural. It's going to happen.
Yep.
And that it's not going to be something that's held against them. And then I think probably the biggest thing for me is, and we'll probably talk more about this as an overlying theme as we go, right? But play, right? You have to have fun while you're at work. And people hear this all the time. They roll their eyes and, oh yeah, I'm going to have fun at work. It's going to be great, right? But that's not necessarily what I mean by play, right? We're not going to go gather everybody up and go out in the courtyard and play around a dodgeball at lunchtime, and that's our play, right? It's motivating and making sure you're enabling the team so that they're having fun throughout the day in what they're doing, that they feel like they're making an impact, that they feel like they're actually having an effect on change, whether it be within their own world or within their customers' world that they're working with, and that they're able to actually quantify that and take bona fide enjoyment and apply their passion to it. Because the worst thing you want to have happen is if you set up this whole rigid thing of hit X number of this, do this, and here's how you do it, and you lay it all out like that, you're going to get what's commonly called, and for any of you who read a lot of sales and self-help books and stuff like that, they're called Cobra Farms, right? If you sit here and say that, hey, and it comes from historical when the English were over in India, and they said they had an issue with cobras, and they said, all right, well, we got to get rid of all these snakes in the streets, so we're going to offer a bounty, bring us snake heads, right? And of course, all the people in India were like, well, they're paying us for bringing snake heads. If we clean up all the snakes, they're not going to pay us anymore. So they started breeding cobras so that they could bring more snake heads so they could get more rewards, right? And that's not encouraging the behavior that you want to encourage, right? So that's why it's important. And I think the last piece here is just, I call this the gambler, little Kenny Rogers, Kenny Rogers reference. Know when to hold them and know when to fold them, right? Know when it's time to guide and coach your team, and know when you need to step back and let them run, right? And you're all going to learn things if you allow them to run, good and bad, but you're going to be that much better for it, right? So learning from those lessons is critical.
And with that then, because I know that we've spoken about it before in terms of motivation, and you link sort of the sales profession with obviously total comp money, salaries, bonuses, commissions, all that kind of stuff. But it's not always about the money, is it? And increasingly with the new sort of emerging talent coming through, it does seem to be more, the motivation factors are a lot different and away from the sort of the monetary. The monetary is great and it needs to be there. The mechanisms need to be there for them to sort of have good earning potential, but they want all the other things as well, don't they? And just on that, Matt, and again, we mentioned sort of working remotely now since COVID, and that's still sort of remained the same largely in this space. How hard is it? How hard is it to do all of that remotely?
It's definitely different than it used to be, right? When we were in office environments, it was, just step out of your office and walk down the row and talk to the people and motivate the people. And the access was a lot easier then. Nowadays, it's really about making sure you're making the time to do it. Like it's so easy when you're remote to just nose down, hammer through. Oh, I got to do this. I got to do this. So I got 30 emails that came in, and it can quickly become overwhelming. And if you don't set aside the time to engage with your people and to manage your people and to play with your people, you're not going to be successful, right? Because and I'm sure a lot of people who may be listening have been in this situation where I haven't heard from my boss in 2 months outside of email. Like I haven't heard their voice. That's a big
Wow.
problem, right? Because then what happens is, well, if nobody's paying attention and nobody's caring other than these emails and these, KPI reports that come out, they can quickly get demotivated and quickly just be like, all right, well, what I'm doing doesn't seem to matter. So I'm just going to kind of do what I want to do. Right. And they quickly veer off track. So taking the time to schedule those touch points, I mean, minimum weekly with a one-on-one. And then you should also have a team touch points. Some folks like to do it daily. It doesn't have to be long, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, right? Like when we were in offices, you'd have your morning kickoff,
Yeah.
right? 10 minutes, everyone
Little
huddle
huddles.
up.
Mm,
Yep, yep.
mm.
You're just doing it like we're doing right now, talking over a video system, right? So it's the same thing, same practices, but it takes a little more discipline to actually execute and do them.
Yeah, I agree with that, definitely. Channel sales. I mean, you've held a number of senior positions in the channel sales space. How have you seen the role of the channel partners evolve, and especially, I guess, with the rise um, of AI, the hot topic at
Mm-hmm.
the moment, and sort of the new technologies in the B2B space. So there's been quite a lot. It's been quite a rapid change, isn't there, over the last sort of couple of years or so?
Oh yeah, I mean, wow, when the IT kind of channel industry started, a late 70s, 80s, right? And it became more of a thing. It was a lot about access, right? It was pushing boxes essentially and getting the technology out there into the hands of the people who wanted to use it. I think nowadays channel partners are being looked at more as the trusted advisor, and um, their customers are looking for them to be their trusted advisor for everything
Mm.
as much as they possibly can, and um, they're relying on them to help them conduct their business in an efficient and profitable manner. And that's what makes this relationship even more important than I think it ever has been before.
Mm.
Um, Being a generalist is becoming increasingly difficult these days. Being a jack of all trades, when you've got a customer who says, I need security, specifically cybersecurity solutions, right? If you're a generalist, you're probably not equipped to have that conversation, right? So you see a lot more channel partners nowadays starting to specialize and go into specific areas. And sometimes some of the larger ones, they're maintaining their traditional business and they're layering on these specialty departments. But that's the important piece is you have to have that knowledge in-house or partnerships,
Yeah.
which is another thing I'm seeing a lot of the channel customers doing today is they're going out and they're cultivating partnerships and they're saying, hey, I'm going to do their break fix. I'm going to manage their printers and their servers and stuff, but I need a cybersecurity expert that can come in here and, oh, okay, great. Yeah, we'll help do that for you. We'll sit in the background and help manage all of the alerts and do all of this for you, but you're the face. You go do this, and we work out an agreement as far as compensation is concerned. Um, so I see a lot of that partnership going on nowadays as well as people are wrangling the idea of I can't be a generalist. I have to specialize. Specializing is expensive, right? So what else can I do in order to achieve my goals and take care of my customers? While maybe not making as large of an investment. Um, Second part of your question, right? With AI, I think I'll do a complete reverse. I think I just said the days of DIY and being a generalist and being able to figure it out and do everything on your own like you could in the 90s and the early 2000s. They're definitely gone. But I think AI brings an element of that back into the picture, right? Where and it's only going to get better, right? Right now, there's people are question, you can use it to help you write code. You can use it to help you write proposals. You can use it to help you in so many and supplement and complement so many things that you may be doing, sales included, right? But it's not something that is necessarily going to replace the sellers or replace anything along those lines. It's going to complement and help the generalist be more effective, right? So now when I have a customer coming to me and they spit something at me and I'm like, I have no clue what those 10 acronyms mean, right? They go to ChatGPT or some other and they, hey, give me a quick recap of what all of this means, right? Put it in layman's terms. Boom, now I understand. Oh, I can speak this language back to them. It's a huge game changer for them to enable them to be able to continue to have these conversations and remain relevant with their customers. So I don't think it's going to make the partnership aspect or the specialization aspect of it go away right now, but I do think it's going to make it a lot easier for customers to specialize because they have a resource, they have a tool that can fill knowledge gaps that before you had to go hire a system admin or something, right? You just spent hundreds of thousands of dollars. Now you can query a system and start to build up your own knowledge in order to be able to help you out with these things. So definitely in the long term, a game changer, I think.
Yeah, no, definitely. We're already seeing it as well. And on the channel sales piece, we're certainly seeing sort of in the remits that we get, the mandates that we get from our clients, that they want to have the specialism background to sort of even entertain them, mostly. So in terms of your career then, sort of career evolution, if you like, and you've had now over a decade plus in sort of technical sales and technology and cybersecurity and all that kind of stuff. And with all these different, I guess you've had a few companies in that time, but all very stable over 10 plus years or so. But what have been the biggest changes in tech sales that you've seen, and how do you stay sort of adaptable? So whether that's sort of, whether that's sales methodology, the commercial landscape, economic landscape, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and I think referencing back to I think 2 questions ago here, right? I mentioned that we used to sell boxes and widgets, right?
Yeah.
You bought it, you owned it, it was yours. You did whatever you wanted with it. You called in for support. Sometimes you'd get some firmware updates and things along those lines to help maintain it and keep it working and whatnot. But that was it, and that was a world that people were very comfortable with and could comprehend. Nowadays, we're getting into the realm of subscriptions and cloud technologies and SD-WAN and AI and all of these other virtual things that for all intents and purposes, it's vaporware, right? Can I touch it? Can I interact with it? Can I do something with it? Can I move it around? No, you can't, right? It exists in the cloud, which again, we could probably spend hours just discussing the concept of the cloud and what it actually is, right? But the point is you don't actually own it nowadays, right? You don't own the entirety of the solution that you're deploying. And especially when you come to like SD-WAN, we're going to get to a point where you won't even be buying switches or firewalls. You're going to be buying a virtual infrastructure from, Azure or Microsoft or whoever, Google, whoever, right?
Yep.
And that's what you're going to deploy. You're not going to have a server room. You're not going to have any of these things, right? So I think, that's the biggest change. But we have to remember that our goals are still the same. They're not necessarily changing. It's just how we reach them is going to change, and the tools that we're going to use to achieve those goals are going to change. And we're going to have to be better educated. We're going to have to be more informed, right? But the first screwdrivers that came out, right? There was one head, it was a flathead, right? And there was one screw, and it was a wood screw, and it accomplished its goal, right? It was a very manual process, right? And we went through evolutions of that. They had manual automatic hand drills. That's an oxymoron, I think, but right, the ones where you would push them and they would actually try to make the screw go in for you with less effort. To where we are today, right? We've got all these power tools. We've got, I don't know, 50, 60 different screw head types and screws for all these different things. But at the end of the day, the goal is still the same. I need something to stick to something else and not move for a pretty long time, right? And that's the goal. So the goal hasn't changed. It's just we're being more efficient, and we're recognizing that there's different ways to achieve that goal, and we're applying them to our world. So I think as long as we keep that top of mind when you go through evolutions like we're going through right now in our industry, you're going to be just fine. But in order to do that, you do have to be mentally flexible, and you have to be open-minded and willing to embrace the change. Because if you sit here and say, my granddaddy used the flathead and a wood screw all his life, and it was good enough for him, and that's all I'm ever going to use, you're going to get blown away by everyone else out there who's adapting and leveraging all of this new stuff. And it's achieving the same thing. What's the difference, right? Yeah, but it's more efficient, or maybe it lasts longer, or it's cheaper, or it's any other number of side effects that come out of this. That's the important piece of why you need to be adaptable, why you need to be flexible and open-minded about new things that are coming out. So, for me, how I do that is I stay hungry for knowledge. I always seek to learn and understand what's this Chat GPT thing. What are all these other things that are coming out? All these virtual assistants and virtual things that are coming out nowadays. What are they, and why do they matter, and how can we use them, right? And staying young in that manner, and being inquisitive and wanting to play with this technology. That's how you stay on top of the game.
And with that, I mean, I guess that moves nicely into my next question, actually, because you've had experience in both established corporates, but also startups, and the startup scene is it looks like it's picking up speed again, to be fair, across the US and Asia Pac especially, and because of all the new technology that's out there, you've got these really hungry, sometimes very well funded startups with real aggressive growth plans, across the cybersecurity, AI tech space, really, really hotting up. From your experience, what's your take on the sort of the key differences in approach if you're trying to scale a sales team in a startup, or and versus being within a sort of a larger corporate established organization? What are the differences and challenges there, Matt?
Yeah, I think the main difference is one takes an adaptable approach, and the other takes a tactical approach. They both can get you results, right? And I think over rotating in one direction or the other can definitely negatively impact what you're trying to accomplish. But you need to have a healthy blend of both of those things is essentially what I'm saying. And I'll give you I guess an example. Companies that have been around for a long time, they have long histories. They like to stay close to their roots. What got them to where they are is something that is part of their identity. It's who they are, right? And you have to be willing to work within that in an established organization. But you also have to help that established organization understand that you've got all these kids out there, right? Then these startups and everything else that are seeing things through a different lens. And they're viewing the world differently than you are, because you're viewing it from the point of an elder who's been around for a while. And they're viewing it from a challenging standpoint of, well, why is that the way it is? Why can't it be different? Why can't it be better? Why can't it be something different, right? And my example for that, there's a couple of them out there, right? But common one that I think everyone's familiar with, Blockbuster and Netflix, right? Netflix came out and they said, all right, we're going to mail you DVDs to your house. You don't got to come to a brick and mortar store to get a movie, right? And Blockbuster was like, have fun with that, right? And then they started to see it started to take off. And like, oh, okay. So then what did Blockbuster do? They copied them. They started doing the same thing, and they started sending, hey, we'll mail you movies, no problem, right? You can even bring them into our brick and mortar locations, and we'll give you a fresh movie right there, and take it home with you and watch something else. The difference is that Netflix, they knew that wasn't the end game. They knew the reality of this was content. That's what mattered, right? And that they had access to the content, and that eventually, where they are today, they're a content creator, right? So before it was providing myriads of different types of contents through vehicles that consumers wanted to consume it through. Now it's that same, but now they're creating their own content that consumers want to consume as well. So they've kind of doubled down on that, and they saw the meta and they ran with it, right? And we all know what happened to Blockbuster. I think the last location that was in Oregon or something finally closed, or I don't know.
Yeah.
Have to look
Yeah.
it up, right? But yeah, I mean that's the a really good example there of they tried to follow their tactical approach of what's worked for them for years. They adapted a little when they saw someone having some success with something else, but they didn't look far enough into the future of what Netflix was seeing to anticipate that this meta was going to completely change on them, right? And I think that is metaphorically how we look at this as far as the difference between a startup and an established company that's been around. And I think there's a couple of different ways that those established companies can achieve that adaptable culture, right? One is they can build it. You have to have people within your organization that are looking, that are the dreamers. They're like, what about that throw the wild ideas out there that you're just like, I don't know if I want what they're having, because that's how crazy what just came out of your mouth is, right? But you have to have that a part of that within your organization, and you have to have your people feel like they're empowered to think those things, to think that way. Otherwise, as I think it was I don't know if it was Einstein or who said the quote, right? But what got you to where you are is not what's going to get you to where you want to be, right? You have to do something different. You have to adapt. And I think that the other aspect of what these established companies do, and we're finding happening more and more now, is acquisition. Well, I wasn't able to adapt. I wasn't able to create this culture. So I'll just go buy someone else's, right? And try to bring that into my organization, which, depending on how they approach it, could be successful, could not be. If you go make an acquisition, which is kind of something that I'm part of right now in my current role, right? If you go make an acquisition and you sit there and say, hey, you're going to become like us, right? It's probably not going to work out very well for either organization, right? It's what made them successful in their startup world. You bought them because you wanted a little bit of that, or maybe a lot of that, and you need it in your company, in your organization, in your culture. Lean into that. Let them change you. You need to let that happen. You need to embrace that in those types of instances. Otherwise, as we see so many times, companies buy IPs and they just die on the vine, right? Nothing ever comes of it.
We've seen a lot of that.
Why.
Yeah, we've seen a lot of acquisitions recently as well. I think there's more of that through 2025, I think. We spoke about AI not long ago, so we covered a lot of that. But in terms of the future of AI in sales specifically, how do you what's your thoughts on the impact it's going to have for the future of the industry across all industries? So, in our industry, it's already changing dramatically. It's really hotting up. I know a lot of organizations that, even of last year, 2024, they weren't really adapting to it, and now everyone's like running, going, oh, we need to everything needs to be AI. All of our sort of tech tool stack is AI is built in, and all,
Yeah.
Are we staring at sort of millions of avatars taking our roles, and we go and do other stuff, or how does it look for you?
I think we could probably spend an entire series of episodes on this topic. Now, I think as I said before, we definitely need to embrace it. There's definitely areas where it can help us, right? And I think we just need to look at it as, what is the key value of the human seller, right? It's our empathy, it's our ability to be personable, it's our ability to adapt and read social cues and mold that into our approach and continue how we're going to pitch or present or just generally engage with other humans, right? And I think we're a long way off from an AI being able to replace that aspect of it, right?
Yeah.
Where we're definitely not away, and where we are right now, right? Um, I have a call with you. I have a meeting with you. I can have Copilot sit in the meeting with me, recap and synopsis the entire meeting, and put it in 2 paragraphs for me
Yeah.
and detail out what the action items were, right? That administrative aspect that this can relieve of a seller, because what do we want our sellers doing? We want them talking to customers. We want them having those personable relationship building engagements with customers.
Hmm.
And what are they not doing when they're writing up 30 minutes of meeting notes,
Yeah.
right? Or they're cultivating and trying to craft an email blast that they want to send out to customers about a new promotion,
Hmm.
or all these other things that they want to do to help supplement their engagements. That's where I think leaning into AI right now, and where it is, what it's capable of right now, is most valuable to the modern seller. And we should definitely be leveraging that, because, like I said, it just it gives you more time to be able to go have more conversations and build more relationships and have more at bats. And that's the goal of any seller. I need more at bats.
I agree completely, and we're already seeing that, and even in our own business and our industry, that's definitely happening. And I'm not so sure about the, AI being able to build a relationship and
Yeah.
build that sort of trust link. Although I went to the AI summit in Amsterdam in 2024, and they're trying. They are.
Oh,
They're they're trying.
yep.
They're trying, scarily trying.
We'll get there someday. I have no doubts of that. But I think you know, 10 plus years off is my amateur guess.
Yeah. Okay. Let's see. One to watch out for. Um, what are the three things that keep you up at night, Matt?
Ooh, lovely question. I think one of the biggest things that keep me up is, and this has been a passion of mine. I sit on a couple of industry trade organization boards surrounding data privacy and data security, and I think that there's a lot of people in the world that just don't understand or comprehend the realities of their digital exhaust, right? Of everything that they do online in the world, and how easily it can be correlated and assumptions can be made off of that. And I'm not saying that's all bad, right? There are times where being able to correlate large amounts of data can be beneficial to humans in general, right? But there's equally, as cybersecurity guy, right? Those data points are very valuable to adversaries as well. And I'm not saying disconnect from the internet and never talk to another human outside of face-to-face contact ever again. What keeps me up is the amount of people who don't understand the realities of their actions and how they need to prepare for it, right? So if you knew that there was 30 billion bits of data out there about me, and that they're all connected in these different ways, and this is how it's all coming together, when you get that attempted social engineering phone call where, hey, this is your long lost grandson, and I'm in jail down in Florida on spring break, and I just need someone to bail me out. Can you help me out, Grandma? Right? If you're aware of all of your information that's out there, you can quickly say, hold up. All right. No, because I have a grandson because of this. You probably know that they're down in Florida because they posted it. All of this information. So it puts you into a trust but verify mode rather than a just outright trust, right?
Yeah.
And that really keeps me up now. I see so many people fall for a lot of these things, because their default is to trust without the verify part of it,
Yeah.
right? So um, that's 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 really the biggest piece for me. And I think that then goes down into other areas of things that keep me up at night, right? Is um, the old adage of the zombie apocalypse, right? I don't have to outrun everybody. I just have to outrun one person, right? And I think that a lot of end users out there could benefit from adopting that mindset because a lot of them are just like, I'm going to do the bare minimum. Great. Because of cost, because of whatever reasons, but great. You're doing something, which is better than nothing. But I think we're to a point now, we're at a tipping point where everyone's doing something. Everyone's doing the bare minimum, right? So you are now the slowest person in the zombie apocalypse. So how can I run a little bit faster? How can I be a little bit more secure? Yes, it's going to cost money, but helping people understand the realities of upfront cost versus reactionary back end costs when something happens. And I'm sure I'm going to say a cliche right now. It's not if, it's when, right? So if everyone continues to sit here and say, I'll deal with it when it happens. Okay, but that could mean your entire company no longer exists. You're built on your relationship, and heck, you're built on your funds that you have, your liquid assets that you can leverage. And if you lose everything to a ransomware attack, and then you have to spend all this money to try to get the data back, and we all know why that's bad practice anyways, right? Man, you are setting yourselves up for a world of hurt, right? So I just wish that more people would could comprehend and grasp that aspect of the reality of our world, because it's frustrating. And we help when customers come to us, say, I've had an attack, I've had an incident, and I need help. What do I do now? And it's like, well, what you should have done was something 6 months ago, but here we are. Here's what we can do now, but it's not going to be anywhere near as effective or as good as if we had done something 6 months ago, right? So that's
I think we had some guests on last year actually, and that was one of the topics, was the sort of preventative measure and so on. And you got some mega brands out there that senior sort of C-suites were sort of taking that mindset, and it was very much being hit, at a weekend having dinner, and they get the call, we're under attack. It's like, what do we do? Shareholders, all that kind of stuff, and there's
yeah.
there's no backup plan. They've not done any kind of testing in terms of when that happens. Do we pay? Do we not pay? How do all that kind and the brands were, yeah. I mean, you spend years, don't you, building, and it can be literally hours to crash one down. So yeah, good point. So Matt, we started our podcast some years ago on really the sort of the basis was, and the thought process was really just to get professionals like yourself, whether you're from sales, go-to-market, leadership positions, or in the technical space, but just within the cybersecurity sort of ecosystem, and really give back to the next generation coming through. Because we started because there was a lack of talent coming through, and we wanted to just connect to the next generation, say, look, cybersecurity is a really cool industry. It's growing really quickly. These were the different sectors and jobs, and you can earn this, you can do that. So we would like to finish off with that sort of one last piece of advice, to people like yourself with what's the biggest piece of advice would you give to the next generation, if you like. And I suppose given you're in that sales leadership, so getting into the sales function, and I guess from that, what do you look for when you recruit into your teams, so people can get sort of a taste and flavour how they can position themselves to get into cybersecurity?
um couple of things here, right? I think first off, a lot of people hear cybersecurity and they immediately think, I need to have a computer engineering degree. I need to understand coding. There's a massive learning curve in order to be a system admin and to do all of these things, right? Um, and on the sales side of it, I really look at this as, why do you want to do this? What's your motivation, right? And a lot of people that I look to hire, their motivation is they have a desire to help people. They have a desire to protect people and help them be better off in their world, right? I don't need to be your best friend. I don't need to be your leader. I don't need to be any of these things. I just want to be this little person in the background here that is your trusted advisor that you can come to, and I have your best interest in mind, right? And I'm trying to do something that is um, going to be able to be beneficial and help you and your organization, right? So money's nice. We're all motivated by money. Salespeople are a common term, right? Coin operated, right? Just throw money at them. They'll go pitch whatever. They'll go sell whatever, right? But I will say, my experience in sales is that your customers, whoever your customer is, they can tell if you're being genuine, if you actually care, if you actually have a passion, they can tell. And if you're just sitting there throwing spaghetti against the wall to see what sticks and see, what door they may inadvertently open for you so that you can try to make another buck and try to sell another thing and then disappear in the night, they can tell that too, right? So if you're looking to get into the cybersecurity space, specifically from a sales perspective, right? If that's the reason that you're doing it, because you're passionate about it, because you're interested in the technology, because you want to better understand how it affects people and how it affects businesses and how you can play an intricate role in preventing, air quotes, bad things from happening, right? And absolutely dive right in, can learn as much as you can. It's going to be so rewarding for you. It absolutely is, right? But also on the flip side, hey, if you're just, hey, I hear cybersecurity sailors make a good buck, and I want to make a good buck. You're not going to be a good seller if that's your only motivation, right? And you're probably not going to last long. And once you get on that, they've been at 10 different places over the last 10 years.
Yeah, a lot of that. Yeah.
Hiring managers start to question and be like, I don't think this person's the right fit. They seem to jump around or leave organizations a lot, right? So I think that's really the critical piece. And when I'm interviewing people and I'm talking to people, right, I look for people who love to learn, who are open to share what they know with others, and they have genuine passions for things. It could be a hobby, could be technology, could be their family, could be, their favorite kind of music. People who take the time to look a layer deeper, to just dive a little bit deeper into what they're passionate about. That's what I look for. I don't ask questions on interviews, what's your two greatest strengths and your two greatest weaknesses? And, if you were a tree, what kind of tree would you be and why? And all of these, questions that are like pseudo psychoanalytical and things along those lines. Like, I just want to sit down and have a conversation with you at human to human and understand what your motivators are and what are pushing you to want to work for my team and for my organization. And I get that a lot of that's going to be, I need money, but I'm also looking for what are these other things that are motivating and driving you and, pushing you to want to be in this space. Well, I love data and I love aggregating data and putting it together and seeing the picture that it paints. Oh, that's interesting to me, right? That's someone who's like, all right, they have an angle, they have a thing that is they're passionate about and that they're looking, we can use that, right? So that's what I really look for. And my interviews with people are, like I said, it's a 60-minute conversation. I don't have a script. I don't have questions I'm asking you. We're talking about your experience, your life, and how you feel it would be relevant to what you're looking to accomplish, and we go from there. So.
And that's great advice, 100%. With the guy with the candidates that are in the sales space at the moment, but they're not in the cybersecurity industry. They don't want to break into either cybersecurity or AI, but all those type of roles. They want the experience. You're great. I can see that you've got 10 years sales experience in another industry. Where would you steer them to try and break in? Would you sort of look at them and go, well, you need to use your sales ability to be able to get in front of people, and then persuasion techniques and all that kind of stuff backed up with A, B, and C? How would you guide them?
Two paths. path one is get into adjacent markets, which I think are a little bit easier to get into. Specifically, what I mean is like distribution,
Yeah,
right?
okay. Mm-hmm.
So working for those broad line organizations that will give you a lot of exposure to a lot of different vendors and a lot of different technology, right? Or similarly, VARs, right? Working for them, VARs, MSPs, folks like that, working for them in some capacity. Again, you need the exposure to the world of cybersecurity is what you need, right? It's a very small world. I think it's not 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon over here. It's like 2. Like you can't throw a rock and be like, oh, do you know so-and-so? I know so-and-so. Boom. All right, great. We know the same people. Let's talk.
Yeah.
It's really is a small world. So getting your foothold in there through one of those paths is definitely good. The second piece would be willing to come in at I don't want to say a lesser role because they're all important, but maybe at a different role. So starting off in customer success, we're starting off with install base kind of business development type of roles and things along those lines. If you can start off in one of those entry level positions with a cybersecurity vendor, most of them are very loyal to their people and promote and bring up from within. Mm-hmm. And a lot of them also have very well defined career paths that they will work with you and help educate you to get you to where you want to go, right? Maybe you want to be an engineer or a sales engineer, right? Maybe you don't want to do sales. Maybe you want to be in leadership, right? Maybe so whatever you want to do, just getting your foot in the door there and starting on that entry level. If you're good, it won't last long. You'll move up very quickly, right?
Loads of opportunities, aren't there? Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. So those 2 routes I think are probably the best ways to get your foot in the door and start going down that path.
Nice. Okay, cool, good, thank you. And I know you don't ask this question, you just said, but if you did have to be a tree, what would you be?
Oh man, I think I would want to be one of those giant redwoods.
Okay.
Why? Because they've been around. The tree itself, not the species, but those trees have been around for hundreds of years, right? They have, some of those trees out in Redwood Park out in California, right? They've been around longer than the United States has been a country, longer than Europeans had come over and started to settle in this country, right? Those things have seen some stuff, right? Yeah. And that's really interesting to me personally as well. I love trees. There's so much that we can learn from them about how we communicate and how we work together. So that's the one I would choose.
Nice, good choice. I think I go for a palm. I love the sun.
Yeah. Yes. And you get to drop coconuts on people too, right?
Exactly that. You can be strategic, can't you, as they walk along. Good stuff, Matt from Sonic Wall. Thank you very, very much for taking the time to join us. I know that we've been communicating to get something going, so it's been great to kick off at the beginning of 2025. Really appreciate it. We'd love to have you back one day, so we'll keep in loose touch and get you back on.
Absolutely. Yeah. Super. I can't thank you enough for inviting me to come on, and hopefully everyone can tell I love talking about this stuff. So more than happy to come back on anytime. Thank you.
You're a star. Thank you. Brilliant. Thank you, Matt.